Hey guys, welcome back to the Design the Life You Love with Lynn's podcast. I'm so happy you're here. This is the podcast where we talk about intentionally living your life, following your intuition, your whisper, your guidance, and living a life that truly lights you up. I'm so happy you are here. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Let's dive in. Good morning, Carol.
Hello.
How are you today?
I'm looking forward to a beautiful conversation of possibilities.
Ooh, yes, perfectly said. I can't tell you how excited I am to have this conversation. Thank you for sending me the field scan report, the multidimensional field scan report. I have so much feedback and so many questions for you that I can't wait to get started.
Okay, let's dive in. And I need to also thank you for giving me the permission to run that for you and to answer the questions so thoroughly. Thank you.
Yes, I, like most of my listeners, any little clues about ourselves I find so fascinating. Anything that can help me unlock some awareness or move past a block or evolve is so exciting to me. So I thought I just answered a couple questions, and I don't even remember what they were, but as I'm reading through this, and I've read it several times, I'm like, what all did I put in my questions? What all did I give her for information? How does she know all this stuff? So it's really fascinating to me what was all picked up. And I'll let you explain what a multidimensional field scan is and how you use it.
Well, most people feel at some time in their life that they're wandering around in the dark and they keep tripping up on the same wires, or that it's like they're bumping into the same things in their life. And this could be financially, career-wise, health-wise, and we can't seem to find out what it is. So the multidimensional field scan is a mirror of your field. So it's a mirror of that which is in your field, but so often we can't see our own backside. We can't see what's going on. So it literally switches on the light, gives you a satellite view so you can see what wires are tripping you up. And the wires and the bumping into furniture could be karmic blocks, it could be ancestral patterns, it could be certain energetic architecture that's been there that's disturbing your field. So it looks at about 15, 16 different areas, including mental loops, your energetic signature, optimal timelines, in other words, paths or choices that you may have. But most people, when they read it, and it's done as a report, I do not do these live, and I'll explain the reason why in a moment. But when people get the report, there's usually a feeling of familiarity when you read it. It kind of sits well with people because it is your field. I'm just mirroring what's there. And so it also acts like an activation, because if you've been to the top of the mountain and seen the view, you may never go to the top of the mountain again. But once you've seen the view, it's there, it's in your memory, it's in your field. So when you're reading it, it starts to activate something in your cells like a remembrance, and starts to bring more of you online. Because let's face it, in life, we sometimes get off track from being who we are because we're busy pleasing this person, doing this job, doing what other people want, wanting to be liked, seeking approval, wanting to be successful. And it often steers us in very many different directions until we can find our way back to who we truly are. We're heavily programmed and conditioned by society. And so it's pulling out all the sort of dust that's been covered over us, that we've forgotten who we really are. And so that's why there's this air of familiarity. Now, when I do the field scans, The way I get the information is I have to have permission from the person. So there's a short form for people to fill in, but permission is absolutely important to me because that's part of my ethics. That it would be easy to say, oh, could you have a look at that field? Could you have a look at this field? But unless they give me permission, that's a no-no. So I do not do them live because the way the information comes through is it's pre-language, which is said to be the purest form of telepathy. And if you think about it, plants, trees, animals, they communicate without language. So taking away language means it's very quick and it comes like a download, which means I have to, like a zip file, you unzip it, and what takes me the time is to put it into language. Hence, I have a report format that helps me speed up that process. But it becoming pre-language, it means that there's none of my own perception in it. And I've tested these extensively with friends and friends of friends. And I remember in the early days with the field scans, when I was doing one of my friends, and I thought, well, that's not what I think about her. And then I thought, switch that off, Carol, that's your perception. And this is nothing to do with me, it's your field. And when I've completed, I close my field and I close your field because you don't want my field in you and I don't want your field in me. So I usually don't have much recollection of what is in people's scan. It's finished. So that's how I receive the information. And if you've ever had guests who have had near-death experiences, they will tell you that they enter a field where everything they could possibly want to know is available. That they ask a question about quantum mechanics, they know everything about it. The difficulty is when they come back into this density, putting it into language, putting it into words.
Ooh, so this is so timely because I have been reading about NDEs, near-death experiences. Dying to Be Me,
Yes.
the book Dying to Be Me, was definitely a life-changing book for me, and it felt like a remembrance. Like it wasn't a lot of new information, but more of what I call a soul's remembering a truth, right? So things that we always know, but maybe we forget or we lose track and we get sideways. And I remember one of the big takeaways that I had from that book was that language is limiting. Our language is limiting. And so when you talk about you are communicating with my energy and reading my energy, that all makes a lot of sense to me because there's a lot of science that I've been reading about where we actually understand and communicate before we see something or say something or hear something. And
Yes,
so,
we are electromagnetic beings, and everything in this universe is energy oscillating and vibrating at a specific frequency. Just as human beings, we've got a little bit lazy. However, if you think about times where you've walked into a room and you've gone, ooh, it feels a little bit off. Conversely, maybe you've gone into a room and you've thought, wow, it feels, what a great atmosphere. So it shows you that we do read energy. And it comes in a subtle way. But the other thing to note here is we are energy, sending out an energetic signal. And so we have the opportunity that when we walk into a room, our energy announces us before we've arrived. And what do you want to announce with your energy before you arrive? Because you have the opportunity to lift the room or depress the room. And I know I'd rather leave a room and people being uplifted by spending time with me rather than sort of depressed. So it makes you think about how you turn up in life and how you utilize that energy. So what I'm doing with the multidimensional field scans is looking at the hidden architecture behind your reality. And so even if there's dis-ease or different trauma or different experiences there, it doesn't negate whether you should go towards allopathic medicine. However, if you think about dis-ease, it has a physical component, but it also has a mental, emotional, and spiritual component. And it also helps you understand that we are multidimensional beings, that just a small part of our consciousness is stationed in this identity, but portions of our consciousness are also available at the soul level, at the oversoul level, the avatar, the rishi, the bodhaya, all the way back up to source. So once you understand that we're multidimensional beings, it's about bringing more of you online, and not just bringing it in, remembering who you are. And that's why when you read books that you've just shared, Dying to Be Me, or some of the books that I love are the lives and teachings of the masters of the Far East, the superhumans, masters, gurus. They demonstrate all sorts of phenomena. And it's always fascinated me, because if they can do it, how come I haven't been taught? And are they there really to remind us or ask us to remember our true nature, our true brilliance, our true radiance?
So I feel like this is a synchronistic moment in so many ways, but just a second ago, you really solidified that. In meditation this morning, I always close with, send me a sign that shows that I'm on the right path. And in meditation, I had this like idea to do a podcast about manifestation and how it's not really that you're creating something new. You're not building something new. You're remembering a timeline. You're remembering a possibility. And so everything you just said just feels very synchronistic in that,
I
and
think
related to that.
that's been one of my key focuses with this work, to understand and have a deeper understanding of manifestation and materialization, above and beyond the old school of focus on what you want, act as if. There's some other hidden ingredients. So as you know, the multidimensional field scans also highlight optimal timelines. And if I'm not mistaken, highlighted that you're already on yours. Just need to bring more of it online. But often with people, it gives them choices and decisions. And we can change every single moment we're making decisions. So one of the things when I work more deeply with people is to get their baseline signature frequency of where they are now. Because that creates the playground that they play in, and the people who may not be an exact frequency match, and the experiences that may not be an exact frequency match, but they're close enough that they're in your field. And so they say to me, Carol, I don't want this anymore. I want to be on that timeline. So then I get the baseline signature frequency of that optimal timeline, and we have a gap. Now, of course, for those of us who want to sort of go quickly, and most of us do, it's like, slap me there, Carol. Put me in that frequency.
Skip the hard part.
Yeah, the challenge though, Linz, is that when you just go straight there, you can't hold it, you can't stabilize that frequency. And we've all had experiences, maybe even plant medicine experiences, where you're catapulted into other frequencies. You do see, hear, and experience different things, but you can't hold it and bring it back into this reality. So we have to incrementally entrain people to a new playground. And when you're operating from a new frequency, then different people, different experiences are naturally a resonant echo. So it's a bit like if you go into a cave, shout out your name, it'll come back immediately, cleanly and clearly. So people say, well, Carol, I'm doing the work. I think I'm aligned. But if I ask people to hold one positive thought for, say, 15 seconds, that's all, 15 seconds, chances are most people's thoughts will start to drift. It'll get fragmented. They'll be saying, is this 15 seconds? It feels like longer. They can't hold that. Now that shows you that we're not sending out a resonant frequency, that we're sending out a scattered frequency. Mm-hmm. So what are we getting back from what we see in our outside world?
Scattered.
A scattered signal. It's sporadic. So, one of the things that I developed was something I call the entrainment series, which is a set of audios to take people first. Most important is coherence, which is aligning your nervous system, your thoughts, your emotions. And, you know, so many of us have been taught to get out there, take action, be busy, and, get stuck in. But out there is noisy. And take it from me, I've always been an action person,
Same.
and it turned out to be the antithesis of everything I've been taught and told. It was about coming back into stillness, into silence, into stasis. And sometimes it's about doing nothing and more about being, which feels extremely uncomfortable because, most people are sitting twiddling their thumbs. Well, shouldn't I be doing something? But if you can imagine that if you're busy doing, you're here, what you're seeking cannot find you because you're all over the place. When you're coherent, aligned, it's like you're a lighthouse, a signal that's going out very clearly and very cleanly. And so the echo, the resonance back from the field comes back with more of what you want and less of what you don't want. There's also another component here, well, two more components. First is identity. You'll know you work with people, and when people come to you, they tell you their story, right?
Yep.
And we don't need to be clairvoyant or clairaudient to accurately predict where they'll be with that story in 1 year's time, in 2 years' time, in 5 years' time, if they continue that script. So the way I liken this to is if you watch actors, they get offered a script, they get offered the part, but they get the backstory of the character they're playing, and they play that beautifully for the duration of the filming, and then it's done. And then they wait for the next part and they take on that role. And so what I'm suggesting is, rather than being stuck in a story and an identity, if you're truly ready to shift, this frequency where you become embodied and aligned with a new timeline is a different identity, a different story. And so the old model of past creates the present, creates the future, I feel is dead. I feel we need to be looking at the future. Based on the future, what frequency and what identity do I need to operate from, and which backstory will support that? Because nobody says you have to be this identity, this story for the rest of your life. Maybe society, your conditioning, your programming has said that, but actually it's time to question what you've been told and taught, because you are so much more than those limitations. So I always say it's about taking people beyond the boundaries of who they believe themselves to be, and then you open up to new possibilities. And it's the reason I run events like firewalking, because most people have been told that's impossible. Yet when they do something like that, it begs the question, if I can do something that I've been told and taught is impossible, what else have I been taught and told that's not true?
Yes, question everything.
Exactly.
Wow. Well, all of that just really hit me right in my heart center, and it just feels like I said earlier, it is just a remembrance. It feels like truth. It resonates 100%. And one of the things that comes to mind right now is that I feel like and I'm curious if you see this with yourself or with people that you work with. I felt like when I first really got into meditating, I felt like I was really on like a roller coaster, the high peak, right? And things just couldn't get any better, and they kept getting better and they kept getting better. And then I had this life became lifey, right? I lost my dad suddenly, and I
I'm
took
sorry.
on this role of the family leader, and everything just either it became stagnant or just felt like the floor dropped out from underneath me. And now, instead of like having this steady climb of high frequency, maintaining my vibration, um, being more coherent, having an open heart more often, it feels a little bit turbulent. And I'm just trying, or I'm just starting to kind of level out a little bit more and get back on that uphill climb.
So, a couple of points there. First of all, the sort of ups and downs are actually signs that there's a shift happening.
Mm.
So, first thing is when we go into meditation, most people focus from the heart space and above. And I often see this in the multidimensional field scans with people who are following more of a spiritual path, that their upper chakras are very open, but there's no embodiment in that they haven't taken it down into their body. In their lower chakras, there's an imbalance. And so people say, well, what do I do? What do I do? And it's like, have you ever thought about meditating on your base chakra or the core of the earth?
Mm.
And you might be surprised at how it feels and what messages come through when you bring it into your body. Because, I'm thinking of one client who was able to very easily and effortlessly astral travel, but it frightened him. And I could see exactly why it frightened him, because all his upper chakras were way open and there was no grounding, which meant he was always a little bit scared whether he'd be able to get back into his body.
Okay.
So people, misjudge and dismiss the lower chakras, yet they are really, really important in terms of embodiment and having that alignment. The second thing here is that you mentioned the word remembering, and you're quite right. There's nothing new to learn, because the multidimensional field, the quantum field, whatever you want to call it, everything is there and available all the time.
You have everything you
And
need.
it's not like, Netflix, you have to set up an account and a password, then you can watch anything that's streaming on that platform. The quantum field has innovation, creativity, intelligence, wisdom, everything that you could possibly desire. And all of us have had glimpses of that. So it's those times when you think of someone and instantly they call. We've all had that experience. Or times when an idea lands fully formed and you think, wow, where did that come from? And most people think of those as random, but they're indications that you are already connected to a stronger, deeper, wider field of intelligence. The challenge is your connection. So if we go back to, say, Netflix or Apple, you can have the most advanced streaming platform in the globe, in the world. But if your Wi-Fi connection is poor, then you're not going to be able to stream a movie, stream the series. It's going to be glitchy, or the picture's not going to appear. And so it is when we come back to our connection. And based on my research, a lot of this is down to our DNA, because our DNA is more than genetics and down to the colour of your skin, the colour of your eyes. I'm not going to say my hair because it comes from a bottle, but but it's far more than that. It's an antenna, a transmitter and receiver of consciousness. So it's all there. It's our ability to hold it. So another way of thinking of that would be if you go scuba diving, you can only go to a certain depth, else you'll be compressed by the pressure. But if you go down into a submarine, you can go to a much deeper depth. The depth is there all the time. It's your ability to access it. And this is where my work comes in, to help people develop a stronger connection to upgrade their signal, their Wi-Fi, and also make them aware that, this isn't something you need to tap into, log into. It's there all the time. And that means as you upgrade your frequency, your playground changes, and those ups and downs, those traumas, those negative experiences, they're not a resonant match. And actually, that seems very strange for most people, because most people secretly like the ups and downs and the drama.
Oh, I definitely
It's
used
up
to.
their life. So when life is very, things come magically, it feels a little bit different from how we've been told and taught that materialization and manifestation happen. Now, I also want to just quickly share these ups and downs. I said it's a frequency shift, because if you've ever heard of the field of cymatics, it shows how frequency impacts matter. So one of the videos I often play is a metal tray, and they put salt and sand on the tray. When they key in the frequency, the sand and salt goes into chaos, and then it aligns with the new frequency. Turn up the frequency, it goes into chaos again, and then it aligns. So if you think of some of the times where everything looks like it's falling apart, could it actually be coming together in a whole new way? And going back to times in our life when maybe we've had a financial crash or emotional crash, and it seems everything is crumbling, but actually then reality builds in a whole new way and opens a new doorway.
So it's like the demolition before you remodel a house. I'm an interior designer, or formerly
Yes,
an
of course
interior
you are.
designer, and that's an unnecessary process. You have to remove the old in order to make space and rearrange and redesign for the new. And this is a repeating message for me, for sure. And I'm,
It's a metaphor I often use, because if you are building a house, you put the foundations in, they've got to settle. Even when you built the house, the wiring, the plumbing, then the decor, there's a long time before you move in. But the fact is, when you're building a house in this physical reality, you can go and see its progress. When it's happening on the multidimensional field, you have to trust. And that's the mistake that most people make, because they get so far and then they go into doubt. It's like, I can't see that anything's changed, nothing's happening. So they have this yo-yo effect and never fully get to this new playground. So your example and what you do in terms of design is perfect.
and trust, interestingly, was, or trust, have faith, same thing in my opinion. My dad's biggest message was always have faith. You got to have faith. You got to have faith. And so it's very beautiful that that is my lesson at this point in my life. And the I said the other day, like May was all about stillness for me, and resting and making space and doing nothing. I have been a busybody my whole life. I've always had at least one, two, three, four jobs since I was 13 years old. And I'm 40 now. And so thinking about how many years it took me to get here to like actually understand that no, rest is not a reward. It is something that needs to be integrated in part of your journey. But it's uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable for someone who has been conditioned their whole life. And I'm sure you've seen it a million times with the people you've worked with too.
Virtually every single scan that I do, on I think it's number 12, it says key missions for living your vision and purpose. And one of the keys there, usually on 90% of the scans I do, is rest as repair. Because most of us who have been busy feel guilty about taking a seat, having a cup of tea, or taking an afternoon rest and doing nothing. We think, well, I should be doing something. Yet rest is recalibration. And if you look at some of the most extraordinary people in the world, their creativity and invention has actually come in those, when they've been caught in the quiet, in those still moments.
The sacred
And for
pause.
me, I spent 10 days, 10 nights in a darkroom retreat. And when you're in darkness for 10 days, 10 nights, so dark you can't see your hand in front of your face, it creates very profound shifts because the sense of sight is taken away. You have a different spatial awareness. Your sense of time disappears. So you're in a very unusual field. It's said to be the closest to a near-death experience. Again, I don't even like to use that word. And so when you've shared about your father, to me it's a transition of form. He's just dropped. And so can you talk with him, chat with him? It's just sometimes we miss the physical form.
Yeah, for sure. I feel his presence here with me all the time, constantly. He's showing me that he's here through various different signs. Or even this morning, I woke up really early and I stepped outside, and it was just this beautiful morning. The birds are singing, it's still dark out, and it's so still and peaceful. And I just said, "Hey, Dad," because I could just feel him there with me. And I'm very blessed to be tuned into that, and I hope that other people can. When you lose somebody, they're not entirely gone. Yes, we can't hold on to them and give them a hug, but they are still here because we
It
are all
says that
energy.
they continue to live in this reality until the last person no longer remembers them,
Mm.
because their energetic field is kept alive by you. And as I said, I like to use the word transition because it's just a dropping of form. And my mother passed maybe 3 years ago.
I'm sorry.
And honestly, there's not a day that I don't think of her. However, it's about thinking of her and smiling. And, the gift that we have, my mother was 91 and she was still out and about and driving. She was a lovely character. And so I feel very blessed that, I had that relationship with her and I continue that relationship with her.
Mm. So good. She sounds like the version of myself. Like I always refer to my 80-year-old self, and she's a little spitfire and she gets everything that she wants and she doesn't take any grief. And, she kind of rolls in sideways and dusts herself off because she's living her life and she's not living it with any regrets.
Beautiful. So you're already connecting with
Yeah.
different aspects of yourself. And that again is, understanding that we're multidimensional beings. And also in this physical reality, there's all the different future versions of us. Which one do you want to embody? And which ones has some guidance and insights for you?
Mm. I want to go back to what you said about DNA. That was something that was really surprising for me in your report. Um, yeah, DNA, primary theme, status field insight. Speak to us about the DNA distortions and how that all plays into.
Okay, so our DNA has been distorted over millennia by many digressed races. But right now, most of the DNA distortions are down to the additives and toxins in our food, our water, and even our air. And my thesis for my PhD was bioregenesis of the DNA blueprint through source feeding. Source feeding is the breatharian path, the pranic nourishment path, and seeing if it was possible to nourish myself in different ways rather than just with solid food. And it is possible. There's over 200,000 breatharians in the world. Was it an interesting transition? Yes, and I'm not suggesting that's everybody's path. However, if we understand DNA, it's a transmitter and receiver of consciousness. And right now, only a small amount of consciousness is available through our DNA because of the distortions it holds. So it's like having a light bulb on a dimmer switch and it's turned down to the faintest glow. And this is one of the reasons that we don't remember who we are as a multidimensional being and in this world and beyond. So one of the ways I describe DNA is, think of it like a film strip in a projector. And when light hits the film strip, it projects what's on the film strip onto an external screen. But if there's scratches on the film strip, then what you're going to see on your external screen is also going to have scratches, it's going to be glitchy, it's going to flicker. And so it is when your DNA, when consciousness comes in, hits the DNA, if there's distortions in your DNA, then your perceived holographic reality is also going to have distortions. So my PhD and study was about different ways to tidy up the DNA, because your DNA is a transmitter receiver of consciousness, it's an antenna, but also different densities, different frequencies, and your DNA corresponds to different abilities. So when I talk about abilities, I'm going way beyond the 5 senses that most of us know. And people like yourself, I don't know if you're clairvoyant, clairaudient, or a strong intuition, but again, bringing more of those senses online. And for me, I always wanted to be psychic. And I had many friends who used to say, "Did you see this? Did you hear that?" And I'd go, "No." And I always thought it would come online, excuse me, with bells, whistles, fireworks, and then do it 3 times so I know I didn't miss it. However, once you start tidying up your DNA, different gifts and senses begin to come online. And those senses usually come in a very subtle way. Yes, there are some people who have Kundalini awakenings or very powerful experiences that literally shake them up. Near-death experiences, for many people, they share that additional senses have come online. However, you may not want to go through a near-death experience.
Right.
Are there easier ways to bring these senses online? And that starts with tidying up your DNA. And intuition and a lot of those senses are very subtle. You know, trauma, anxiety, anger, they all shout. Intuition whispers. And until you can learn to be coherent and in those quiet moments, that's when you hear. And that's the beauty and value of meditation. But it's also bringing those feelings of, rather than, oh, I meditated for 20 minutes or an hour or 10 minutes and then back to your normal day. It's about bringing those qualities more into your day. And that's creating the stronger connection to the multidimensional field. That's upgrading your connection.
Yeah, I'm a strong believer in meditating right away in the morning. And I know that's part of my struggle as far as maintaining groundedness is that since I had my daughter who was 18 months old, my morning practice has been a little bit scattered, especially in the last 6 months. And I know that when I stick to my morning practice, I always say mornings are for me. So I wake up early, I get my butt either outside for a walk or I meditate first. Those are my 2 things. And then I journal and have my cup of coffee, and it's just this stillness that allows me to move through my day so much differently. And when you move through your day differently, then you move through your week, your month, your year differently. And meditation, to come back to what you said about your darkness retreat, and you didn't have sight and it was complete darkness. One of my teachers always said, when we close our eyes, we can see further. And that didn't make sense to me at first, but it's so true, because then we don't have the 3D world getting in our way. And that's the beauty of meditation, not only to get grounded, but to tune out the noise and create more stillness in our morning or our life.
And isn't it beautiful that time in the morning when it feels like the world is not awake?
Yes.
And that's the stillness where there's no noise.
Yeah.
You were talking about, seeing in the dark. There's actually something that I studied and I've taught as well. It's called extraocular vision. Because we don't actually see with the eyes, it's your eyes that take in information. But again, we've been conditioned that it's the eyes that see. But extraocular vision is a way to see with your hands, with your feet, with your whole being. And children in particular, between the ages of say 5 and 10, are very, very open. And one of the young children I worked with, he's called Max, he was so beautiful, literally within the second session. He was wearing one of those mind folds that blocks out all the light. And he had a book with pictures and big print, like a nursery rhyme book. And he was reading from it and telling me everything that was in it and on it.
Wow.
And it was just so beautiful to witness. And his joy also of activating that sense. And as I said, with children, it can happen in the first, second, third session. It's very easy. Adults can do it too, but it takes a little bit of extra time because we've been so heavily programmed and conditioned to see with the eyes. So when that's taken away, it feels uncomfortable. But there's different ways that you can practice, even with those mind folds, just spending time. So even when you meditate, I don't know whether you meditate with a blindfold on, but it's also a very, very different experience because in darkness, your body releases huge amounts of melatonin. And melatonin is not just the one that puts you to sleep. It's also very important in terms of DNA repair. So when you do sleep or meditate, if you can meditate and sleep in darkness, you're also repairing your DNA.
I think it also stabilizes hormones too. Am I right? Do you know?
It does.
Yeah.
It does. It has very many benefits to sleeping in complete darkness. Or if you don't have, dark curtains, then put on a blindfold at night and just notice the difference in your sleep and the quality of your sleep. And also the quality of your meditation. So if I'm running the signal upgrade session, which includes breath work and entrainment audio, I always encourage people to have a blindfold on because it allows you to go deeper and quicker.
Yeah. I can see that. I can totally see that. I could talk to you for probably another 5 days. There's so many things that we didn't even talk about that are in this report. But I do want to be mindful of your time, and I do want to ask you if there's one thing that you can tell our audience, one piece of advice to give them for intentionally designing a life that they love, what would it be?
Remember who you are. Beyond the programming, beyond the conditioning. The masters, the superhumans, and the gurus showed us what's possible. It's now time for you to remember, to go beyond the boundaries of who you believed yourself to be and start opening up to new possibilities.
That's so good. So good. Okay, and aside from the multidimensional scan, tell us how else you help people and how your work has impacted the world and continues to do so.
Well, it started with my fourth book. Actually, it started with my third book. I didn't know, I had long gaps between books. But I'm sure you've had one of those nights where you can't sleep. And I had one of those nights where I couldn't sleep and mapped out the whole of the book on multidimensional intelligence. And I thought it was a book. But again, as more of my DNA came online, then it opened up to the multidimensional field scans. Then to support people with the multidimensional field scans, Online came the entrainment series, which is an audio series which you can listen to. They're binaural and specific frequencies with non-audible subliminals. And it starts with coherence, resonance, alignment, threshold for those times when you're feeling that nothing's happening but you want to hold the frequency, that liminal space, and then embodiment, really bringing it in and being it. And I use those to support people when I work with them with the mastery mapping frequency technology. But right now, if people just want to get started, they can look at the website multi-dimensionalintelligence.com. There's a free 4-day multidimensional field awareness series. It's just 7 minutes each day, and it'll give them a bigger picture and also bring them into their body and helping them understand more of who they are and less of who they're not. And there's also a little diagnostic tool to help them understand where their signal is pulsing at the moment. So those are all available on the website. And actually, Linz, I have to hold myself back because once you're connected or have a stronger connection to the multidimensional field, the ideas keep coming, and you have to say stop. Let me consolidate what I've got. So it's been an extraordinary experience for me, and you can tell how excited I am for myself, but also how it supports people in a way that they remember, like the multidimensional field scans. It's your field. It's mirroring your field. It's you. I'm not sharing anything with you that isn't you. And sometimes we need that reminder of this is all me and more. It's, again, having the satellite picture, switching on the light, moving the wires, changing the furniture around, or working with someone like a designer like you so you can redesign and open up and see the possibilities.
Yeah. I'm just completely fascinated, and the current level of consciousness, that's something that you offer for free on your website right now?
No, it's more of a diagnostic
Like,
tool, not what frequency you hold, because we don't hold one frequency. We have a range, because out throughout the day we have a good time, we have a bad time. It's how quickly you can stabilize a frequency band and stay coherent. That's the importance. In the field scans, I do often put in the Hawkins rating, but you have to remember that Hawkins' model of consciousness was developed by him from his point of view. So people like a measurement, and as I said, the diagnostic tool asks you a number of questions which help you know whether you're coherent and operating from a strong signal, or whether it's a little bit scattered, whether you're going back and forth. So it gives you a little bit of an idea of where you're at and some guidelines of which direction to take.
so helpful. So very helpful.
And I'd just say to you, read and reread your scan, because, as I said, it acts like an activation. It's that remembrance. So picking it up again, you may feel something stirring in your body as you read it again and again and again. And Linz, you are always welcome. If you come up with another question, reach out to me. I also offer people an opportunity to discuss their scan if they have some more questions. There's that
Oh,
option as well. But I'd be happy
sure.
to do that for you if you want some clarity on some of those points. I'd be very pleased to do that.
I will definitely be taking you up on that. There's so many notes that I have here, and it would even be fun. I'm an open book, so I would even be willing to like do that for our listeners too, so they can hear what it's like to work with you. And also, I think a lot of times you don't know where to start when you're on this journey of like finding yourself again. And some of the things that I do now that come easy for me don't or didn't come easy for me at the beginning. And so if some of my listeners are wondering, well, how do you even notice signs, for example? That's one of the questions that I get. How do you notice signs? How do you decide to reflect on them and pay attention to certain things? It's all just a practice. So it's really good to show people how we would move through this report and how I might use it and how it might serve me
And
going
this is
forward.
also the important thing about becoming discerning and sovereign. You know, because the outside world wants us to follow this guru, that person, this person. And I'm very blessed that, you know, I've worked with many masters and mentors, and many of them don't have websites, not online, but also a lot of the mainstream ones. And I always wondered that something often felt off for me, yet you want to belong because everybody else says, oh, this is brilliant, this is amazing. And I thought, not really. And so it's also about developing your own level of discernment rather than being told what to do. So when I work with people during the mastery mapping frequency technology and mentoring, there's only a number of sessions and it's over quite a short period of time because I do not want people to have to work with me for months, for years.
Absolutely.
I want them, the last report they get from me should be a report that helps them identify, oh, I know I need to listen to coherency. Oh, I know this is a resonance issue. Oh, I know that I'm not, that they can identify for themselves. I'm always there. However, I want them to be sovereign, discerning, and embodied, so that they're more of who they are rather than what society has told them to do or be. And I think that's one of the most, you know, when people are asking you, well, how do we start? What do we do? It is that silence and stillness to listen to that whisper. Like when you go into a room and you know that the atmosphere is a little bit off, and when you know it's good, that already shows that you read energy. Listen to it. So when you watch something, when you meet people, listen. Your body talks. Your intuition whispers. There's so many signs, and we've just blurred it with all the noise that we have.
Yeah, absolutely. And I didn't mean to sound like I wanted you to explain everything. I just like to unpack things with people,
Oh, look, I'm
especially
sure
who
you have some questions.
understand. Oh, yeah. But yes, I agree with you. Like, we don't need another person's opinion of anything, right? We need to digest it and and learn from it and alchemize it as we go. I was thinking that about music this morning. I've had this song stuck in my head for a while, and my family hears one message out of this song, and I hear another. And that's what I love about music. That's what I love about art. That's what I love about life. Everybody can take a different meaning from anything, whether it's music or a sign or a book or whatever. And trusting yourself enough to know that whatever it is that you hear or take away, like if you're reading a book and you really like this book, but your friend doesn't like the book, trusting that whatever you got out of it is what's meant for you and is what was intended for you. Like you said, being
I
sovereign.
have a different take on that because I believe when you read something that resonates with you, it's an echo of that which you already know. And that we sometimes like reinforcement to see it visibly or to hear it. But if it sits well with you, then it's an echo of all that you are, because you're complete as you are. And so what you're bringing on board is more of your remembrance. And sometimes we need that from a book or a movie. And, you know, sometimes we need to read the book twice or watch a movie again and another message comes at us. Isn't that the beauty of our human experience? Evolving, learning, growing.
Yep. And we only hear what we're ready to hear or see what we're ready to see. So,
Totally.
well, thank you so much for being here. Let's remind our guests where they can find you. And thank you again.
So it's the website is multi-dimensionalintelligence.com, and you can also follow me on Instagram, Carol K. Talbot. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Okay, my loves, thanks for hanging with me. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please share it with someone and like, subscribe, leave me a rating, all that good stuff. And I'll see you next week.